talk about the upper extremity, which is going to be scapula and the rest of the arm and the forearm and the wrist and the hand. Okay, this bone right here is called the humerus. And disarticulate that. This rounded part right here is the humerus head or humeral head or head of the humerus. This line going around right here is the true anatomical neck. Underneath that, this is the surgical neck where my finger is. I mean, this whole region right here is the surgical neck. Now this divot back here is posterior. The head is medial. That would make, if this is posterior, the divot, that makes this anterior. Coming lateral to the head, I have this big bump right here, and this is the greater tubercle. Anterior to the head of the humerus, I have another bump that's not as big. This is the lesser tubercle. Coming down the lateral side, I come down to a bump on top of a bump. This is the lateral epicondyle. Coming down the medial side, I come to a bump on top of a bump. This is the medial epicondyle. Now, here's the humerus. This bone right here hooks into the humerus, makes a hinge joint. This bone is called the ulna. Nothing else looks like this. It's almost got a U right there. If we take this and stand this on end, the U goes like this, and now we can do this and wiggle our fingers, say olecranon process, and then wiggle our thumb and say coronoid process. This is the olecranon process, this is the coronoid process. You notice that one end is big, one end is small. The small end is the head. So here is the head of the ulna. And coming down on the head of the ulna, we have this point that sticks right here, and that's the styloid process. Now, on the ulna, we have this bone that turns right here. This is called the radius. No other bone looks like this. The radius looks like it's got a wheel to it. And this wheel part of the radius is the head. Coming down right here, just below the head of the radius, is this bump right here. This is called the radial tuberosity. And down here, again, you'll notice that one end is smaller than the other. The small end of this is the head. Down here, we have another bump that sticks down, and that is the styloid process. Now, the head of the radius sits in this notch right here on the ulna, and that is called the radial notch. The head of the ulna sits in this notch on the radius, and that is called the radial, or the ulnar notch. So the radial notch is on the ulnar notch is on the radius, and they sit together like that. Now these styloid processes come down and they house the wrist. You can see it right here. Your wrist bones are properly called your carpals. You have row of 4, then another row of 4 of carpals. The bones that meet up with the carpals, the bones inside the palm of your hand, the bones that meet up with the carpals are called metacarpals. And then we get into our fingers, properly called our phalanges or our digits. We have one, 2, and 3 phalanges. We have a proximal phalange, a distal phalange, and then the one in the middle called a middle phalange. That's on these digits 2, 3, 4, and 5. On digit 1, your thumb, you only have 2 phalanges. You have a proximal and a distal phalange. A proximal and a distal phalange. So that's the hand. Cut.